Hello, everybody. We've got David Margulies here on video with me, also known as Doghouse. We're going to be doing a very informal rundown today of the emergency committee request for worker proposal funds. And the idea, just to give kind of the breakdown, the idea here is really for David to get the chance to be able to run down the proposal, just really explain it, and maybe give a little bit more details in terms of clarity, in terms of definitions and meaning and intent and background. And as we go along, this will be very informal. I'll be asking questions. I'll be asking questions for clarity and just really to strengthen these this particular proposal. So welcome, David. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for setting this up. I really appreciate it. The more people that discuss the WPS in public, the more feedback we get, the stronger the product we can create.
Of course.
Well, I should say good morning because I'm in UTC +8.
Yes.
But for you, good night, good evening.
Yeah, for me it's 10 p.m. right now, and so I'm guessing for you it's like 10:20 in the morning. We're about 12 hours apart, right?
That's right. So
That's right.
I will try to stick to the emergency committee budget and proposal.
Mm-hmm.
I wear several hats in the WPS. I'm one of the nominees for the emergency committee, which is why I wrote this budget. And I'm also on the WPS group that put everything together. So if I stray from the topic, just pull me back.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right.
So what we're going to do, David, if you can share your screen, everybody, David's going to share his screen. That way we're going to have on screen what he's looking at, and we're just going to go through it. And really do, like, very basic. We're going to do a reading of what this proposal is. And as we go along, if ever I had any questions of clarification, why this, why that, why did you come to this, I'm just going to stop, and we're really going to focus on the proposal itself. So not on the merits of whether or not this proposal should be accepted. Just when it's going to go up for referendum vote, do we have the information that we need in order to make an educated vote? That's really all it is. So David's agreed to come on this show, record this so that we can provide more information for you, for the community, because we know that there's a lot of information out there. And as much as reading sometimes is accessible to some, it's not as accessible to others. So we'll make this video available through video, and possibly as well you could do just the audio portion so that you can listen through it and you can get a better sense of what it is being proposed. So the floor is yours, David.
All right. So the emergency committee is one of the proposals in front of the entire community, and we are bundling it with the first WPS referendum. It needs to be bundled because without an emergency committee, it doesn't matter what we agree to. Something needs to be used to run the thing. Some people in the group have complained about the name emergency committee. It's kind of grandfathered in at this point, but it could also be called the bootstrap committee or the committee to get things started, damn it.
Yeah. So basically the idea behind this committee is really to be able to determine what would be classified as an emergency or what needs to be bootstrapped. Like, can you give just a very high level, what is the emergency committee?
All right. EOS needs some official mechanism. I'm reading at this point. Some official mechanism to bootstrap the EOS Commons Fund, what we're calling the worker proposal system. We're planning on using this emergency committee, and we're requesting funding for a proposed 6-month period. The emergency committee, and this is what you asked, the emergency committee will provide oversight on progress of approved proposals. So we don't just approve a proposal through the referendum and then give it money and walk away. We make sure they're doing what they promised. We're making sure that they have enough to do what they promised, and we're making sure that they don't have too much to do what they promised.
So that committee would be doing like the checks and balances for the proposals and for the other groups that have requested money if they get approved.
Right. For the bundled proposals and for any new proposals that come in for the first 6 months or so, the emergency committee will be providing oversight. Okay. It will also review new or urgent proposals. So if there's a fire that needs to be put out immediately, then the emergency committee will handle that. If a proposal comes in for a meetup, we will probably say, in 6 months, apply to the appropriate category. And Josh will explain about the category system.
Yeah.
But we won't read that proposal because it's not an emergency. An emergency will be something that's immediate harm to the ecosystem that needs to be remedied, or something that is of immense benefit to the ecosystem and is time sensitive. So those are things that we would consider emergencies that need to be dealt with. Otherwise, we're not going to look at them. And finally, the emergency committee, and this is why it should be called the bootstrap committee, will oversee the receipt of proposals for governance structures for the categories.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Well, Josh will explain about the categories, but in broad strokes, there are going to be 5 categories that proposals can fall into.
Yeah.
I don't have them at my fingertips.
Yeah, but there's going to be the 5, sure.
Yeah, and each of those will require a governance structure. We as the WPS decided that we do not want to say this is the best way to do it and this is the way it should be done for everything. We broke it up into 5. Each of them have their own budget, and each of them should have a community selected governance structure. So one of them might be pure committee. Representatives elected, and those representatives vote, and it never goes back to the community. Another one might be like the emergency committee, where the committee reviews it, makes a recommendation, but then the community votes. Another one might be, we're just going to have pure community voting on everything. Another one might be, we elect Yves to decide everything.
So so they would be able to determine whatever governance structure works for them. That way you're going to have a multitude or a variety of different governance structures for those particular.
Not whatever works for them, whatever works for us.
Okay.
We, the community.
Yes, sorry. By them, I meant the community. So the community would determine what works for that particular bucket, one of the 5 different buckets.
Yeah. The community decides what is the best governance structure for each category or bucket, as you're calling them. And we think that that's the healthiest way to do it, because the community needs to be more involved than they have been to this point. We don't just want criticism on work that we've done or criticism on work that you've done. We want the community to actually do the work. It's a lot to ask of them, but I think they deserve that responsibility. So to go back, we went a little off topic. The emergency committee provides oversight of proposals that have been funded.
Yep.
It reviews urgent proposals that are time sensitive or, if not handled, could damage the ecosystem. And we oversee the process of selecting governance structures. That doesn't mean we select the governance structures. It means when governance structures are proposed, we receive those proposals, we review them, we talk to the proposer, and we say, look, you need some mechanism for removal, or have you considered this? Then when they are happy with what they have, it gets put into a vote for the community.
And when you do this oversight portion, David, I'm guessing, because I would hope that at some point there's going to be multiple proposals. Are you thinking of a standardized way of people submitting proposals? So even helping them with the format, the look, the feel of the proposal itself?
That's actually being built right now.
Okay.
And part of the job of the emergency committee, the unstated job, is to set precedent.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that that's what we're doing with. Yeah, go for it.
We're not advertising, hey, we're setting the precedent and everything that we do is what should be copied. Our ideal is that we will try to set best practices as well as we can see them, so that whoever comes along after can have something to emulate or copy or fix if we do a bad job.
Yeah, of course. I think that that's excellent. And I think that that's what we're doing here as well, right? With your proposals, these are the first ever proposals that will most likely go up. And so the more work we can do to make these proposals better, it's setting the precedent going forward. It doesn't mean that the other proposals can't change, but I think it's giving this template or this general idea of the type of discussion, type of questions that will come when you're reading a proposal, right?
That's right. We wanted to get feedback from the community to improve the process, and these proposals we felt are necessary right now. So they should go in the beginning, but community feedback in order to fine tune. So if you think that, for example, the emergency committee proposal and budget is out of line, tell us now. Don't wait for it to go on referendum and then vote no. Tell us now so that we can fix it. Now that doesn't mean tell us that it's bad and we should scrap it. No, if that's what you think, then that's what you think, and there's no improvement to be made.
I think it's the back and forth, right? It's the how to improve it. It's that constructive criticism.
Right. You know, we're very good on EOS, especially in Telegram, of criticism. We're not so good at constructive criticism.
It's very easy.
I'm guilty as everyone else.
Are you now?
I'm more likely to tell a troll to go away than to tell them that was a good idea, but perhaps you could phrase it. You know.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's go. Going back. So the introduction here. So we're gonna read through it. You're at the introduction. What's the introduction to this proposal? So if I'm a token holder is going to be voting.
We're one line above that. We're asking for the number here is 14,503 EOS for 6 months, awarded in 6 tranches. However, the EOS figure is always going to change depending on what the actual conversion rate is to fiat at the time that the money is awarded.
And we'll go in the budget a little bit later. And so the idea is it is pegged to fiat, and you're presenting it here in this particular proposal for a summary, but there is really a breakdown. So for the viewers, we will go in the breakdown, and that does come from somewhere, and those numbers are being presented. Bless you. Bless you.
My budget is probably the weakest in terms of justification for the numbers. Other people did a much better job pulling up numbers, so I just want to give that caveat now. So the introduction. In order to meet the immediate needs of the ecosystem, this emergency committee is a temporary program established until such time that the token holder community deems it no longer needed or its duties can reasonably be included in other, more permanent solutions.
That seems to be fairly simple.
We're not trying to dictate what you should accept permanently. We are saying we need something now. That's all. We need something now.
And the right now is for a period of 6 months.
Yes, it has a death date. It has a replacement strategy, and it has a maximum budget. So the overall WPS is requesting 1 million tokens. When that's gone, everything is gone, unless it's been replaced. If you want to repeal this, there is a repeal process. If other categories are established, the duties of the emergency committee fall over onto the appropriate categories as they are established. So there's many different paths to removing this. And the thing to keep in mind is our ideal solution is that this is replaced. If there is no replacement and the money still exists, we could continue for, you know, another 2 or 3 months with no problem. But that is not a good solution. That would be the equivalent of lingering in hospice care.
So the idea is to phase yourself out as soon as possible, because the community would be taking charge of, and by then we'd have other proposals in place, and we have other systems in place that would make that would render you in a way, or this committee in a way, no longer needed.
Yes. So this is like training wheels on a bicycle. They should come off as soon as possible.
Good. And so I think that's important, because that gives, yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's important because it gives an insight to the viewers, to the listeners here, in where you're coming when you're drafting this, knowing that where you're coming from is from a position of training wheels on a bicycle that should be come off as soon as possible. I think gives that really the intent behind it, gives you kind of that the motivations behind what is being presented. It's that context that's being presented with it. So I think that that's really important for viewers to know. The idea is not to continue on forever, so that we do see the 6 months, but it is possible that you would go on shorter or longer, depending. But the idea is as soon as possible to be phased out effectively.
Yes, and my threat is, if the community does not step up and build governance structures, I'm going to put forth a new referendum that says I am in charge of the entire budget, and I am going to do what I like with no feedback from the community.
All right. We'll see how that goes, David, when you do that.
And I am going to require a voting threshold of 1 yes vote.
That's it. I'm not sure it's up to you, but we'll try it out. Let me know how it goes. Let me see how it goes. So going back to the proposal details, this is where I have a couple of questions, but I'll let you go down, because I would imagine that you're going to be answering a lot of my questions as you go through this.
Hopefully. So the 7 representatives in the committee will meet twice a month. There are 2 questions that have just come up in that one sentence. Actually, 3 questions that I'm sure you have written down in front of you. To provide oversight on progress of the approved proposals, the community approved proposals, review the new emergency proposals, and oversee the receipt of proposals for governance instructions. So those are the 3 jobs. We'll meet twice a month to do that. And all proposals that are deemed urgent need, so anything that comes in that is deemed urgent, we will tidy up, talk to the proposer, and then pass it on to the community, hopefully via our portal, for token holder voting. All right. Now, so that shows you right there, we are toothless. We do not reject. We can postpone, say, look, that's not an emergency, but that's the strongest power we have.
Is anything stopping? I guess there's nothing stopping somebody from just launching their own referendum, right? If, let's say they send it over to you.
Nothing's stopping.
If they're sending it over to you and you say it's not an emergency, it just wouldn't get your stamp of, here you go, it went through us. It could go for referendum anyways. And so you really have very little power, other than maybe tied up and make things nicer, so that when it's presented to the community, it's a better package, possibly.
Yeah. That's really, yes. Good. I lost the thought there. Yeah.
That's okay.
So the 3 questions that I think you probably have. Why 7?
Yeah, that was one of them.
Why twice a month?
Yes.
Yeah, why twice a month? And
are you gonna get 3 for 3? 3 for 3? What's the third one I have? It's capitalized.
How are the representatives chosen?
Yeah, like, who are these people?
All right. Who they are will probably be released in the next week or so. We've held off releasing it because the community is abusive. And these people are volunteers. And when we get to the budget, you'll see they are not making tons of money doing this. So their only incentive to do this is love of the community. And we didn't want to expose them to community abuse longer than necessary, because honestly, there are a large number of people that do nothing, produce nothing, and just bitch and moan.
I choose to focus on the large number of people that do a lot of really good for this community, that invest their time in the community, that are basically all volunteers, sleepless nights, increasing the strength and the growth of this ecosystem. But you're right that there are people out there, but I choose to focus on the people
I agree entirely. Look, I've volunteered 60-hour weeks for the past 3 months to this process, and most of the people in the WPS have.
Yeah.
And we still get demands, literally demands on the group saying, it is your duty to answer my questions. No, it isn't my duty.
So going back, David,
okay.
You asked me to steer you back, going back.
Yes,
the representatives, they will be divulged shortly, but they are a group of, so effectively the question is, are they elected or whatnot? Right now you're saying that they're already chosen. So they are representatives right now. We don't need to say who they are. That's fine. Why 7?
Well, we chose them for integrity. We chose them for status in the community.
Okay, that was my next question. So people know these people. They've effectively, I guess, gained a reputation over the last little while, and people can trust them.
Okay, Yves, just a moment. Let me get through this. You will recognize 1 or 2 of them.
Okay.
At least. Everybody will recognize 1 or 2 of them. But will you all recognize the same 1 or 2? Oh, almost definitely not. It depends on which Telegram groups you're in and which WeChat groups you're in and who you talk to.
Yeah, of course.
To be blunt, I'm one of them, and I'm probably the weakest one. I'm in there for continuity because the WPS group needs to be represented in the emergency committee, just to make sure that the emergency committee understands what they were set up to work with. And I think that if I don't have popularity, at least I have notoriety in the community. People will recognize me.
I think that's fair enough to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am the second grumpiest person on Telegram.
All right. So why 7? Why 7, David?
All right. 7. It's actually, the Alliance picked the same number for its board. And you'll find that most boards have a number something like that.
Yeah.
Too many people, nothing gets done. And little cliques form. Too few people, and the community isn't represented. 7 is a healthy balance for decision making. Could we do it with 5? Yes, but then there's not as much community input. Could we do it with 15? Yes, but then will we ever be able to decide what to order for lunch? No. 7 seems to be the minimum viable number of people.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I've been on multiple boards, and 7 is the standard number.
Yeah, it's based on world experience more than any factual, hey, this is the statistics that prove that 7 is just.
And I think that anybody that's been on the board knows that it's like anything else, right? You need to have a balance, and 7 is an odd number. So the odd number is always good because you get the tiebreaker in the event of. But you also get that representation, like you said, because it's higher than a certain amount of numbers. So you get a good variety of different types of people, different types of opinions, but it's not too large to be paralyzing to the organization. Yeah. What about twice a month?
Okay, twice a month seems as frequent as we can manage without putting undue burden on these basically volunteers. Now, you're thinking, well, twice a month, that's not much. But for 1 hour of meeting, and we're planning each meeting will be 1 to 2 hours. For each 1 hour of meeting, you have to prepare it like a graduate level seminar.
Yeah.
So 2 to 3 hours of prep for 1 hour of meeting, which means for 2 meetings a month, you're up to 16 hours of work. That's quite a lot.
And then depending on the length of the meetings as well, for those of you who are familiar with joining in meetings, we can already look at this call. It's very easy to go over the 1 hour mark when you have a lot of people and there's interesting topics, interesting conversations and decisions to be made and or information to review. Time flies by really quickly. So yeah, 1 hour meetings go by really fast.
My experience is the less interesting the material is, the longer the meeting goes.
So now proposals that are going to be deemed to be urgent, they need a network and are properly formed to get passed to the token holders for voting. What does that mean?
You make a proposal and it is for stickers for a meetup. We will tell you that's a lovely idea. Come back in 6 months to the correct category. Or 4 months or 2 months. But there is a proposal that we urgently need X for the ecosystem because of this reason. I can't think of a good example, but we urgently
something happens and it's deemed to be urgent because either it's got value and or it has the potential of having negative repercussions if it's not done. Significant enough to be able to be deemed urgent.
Yes. It either could cause harm to the ecosystem if not done, or it would provide good to the ecosystem if done, and it is of a time-sensitive nature.
Of course.
That's the issue. If it's not time-sensitive, it's not urgent.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. All right. So, and then properly formed. So if you give us a proposal that is a wonderful idea, but the formation of the proposal is bad. For example, it doesn't have milestones, or it doesn't have clear deliverables. Then we will pass it back to you, the proposer, and say, look, this is good, but over here you need milestones, or you need deliverables, or this is a lovely idea, but we are not going to pay you $1 million.
So it would be that constructive criticism / the helping to be able to make it into a viable or more strength-worthy, presentable proposal.
Yes. Then that proposal would be passed to the voters for the token holders for voting.
Yeah, so I think that's really important, right? There's at no point are you deciding whether or not it passes. Yeah.
That's right. The only strength we have is we can tell you, you're free to make your own referendum.
And everybody can do that.
That's the only power we have. Yes. So we have the entire ability to say, good job. That is the total sum of our strength. So why do we need that? Why do we need that ability? Well, precedents have to be set. Even though we are toothless, our goal is to show people how it can be done. And one question that you didn't ask earlier is, why do we need a committee? And that's a question that a lot of people who don't really think about it throw around. The reason we need a committee is because you can't ask 50,000 people to make a decision.
And well, actually, you can, and that's the intent, right? You're going to be bringing that to a referendum. But I think where you hit it on the head.
Wait, you can't. Let me rephrase that. You can't ask 50,000 people to regularly make engaged and informed decisions. You can ask 50,000 people to review what we have put together and summarized for you and see if you agree. But you can't say, hey, here's a topic you know nothing about, learn it, and then make a decision. Normally, what you would do in a case like that is you would ask experts or friends who know better than you, what do you think? And the committee acts as the elected representatives who help you make decisions because they have time to focus on the specific issue, or they have the resources to go out and find experts who can advise.
And just to clarify that, when you say elected representatives, it really is elected, because this particular referendum, this particular proposal would go up for referendum. If this passes, the names of the representatives would be known before then. And so the people would effectively be elected.
They are elected. They're just not elected. I vote yes for him, no for him, and there's 3 candidates for this spot. It's these 7 people. This is the slate. Please agree to them for a 6-month temporary period.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important distinction for people to know, is that they would effectively be elected representatives. And what you were saying previously with the 50,000 people are not necessarily reviewing and voting on everything every single time, I think that's what's going back to what you said, where the intent of the committee is not to be here forever. The idea is to really shape that so that when ideas in the future come about, they already have the same look and feel. People are already aware of what it is they should be doing in order to present a proposal, because they'll have really good examples of proposals that have been brought forth to the community. That's, I guess, the intent is what I'm hearing from you a little bit.
Yes, and it's not to say that we want to show you that committees work so that everything should be a committee going forward. We want to show you that committees work so it's an option, because a lot of the anger against communities comes down to things like we should have pure democracy, or, well, if I were a whale, I could just corrupt one committee member. Well, no, you can't, because you'd have to corrupt multiple committee members. The committee members are known. Their voting is recorded. It's all shared with the community, so there's accountability. It's actually very hard to corrupt someone who's known and accountable and transparent.
And I guess so these meetings, I'm guessing, would be recorded?
Stop. Where it is easy for a whale to corrupt the process is in FUD and disinformation through pure democracy. That's where it's easiest for a whale to corrupt. The committee actually is a block against corruption, not an enabling of corruption. Now, you asked a question just now, and I don't recall what it was.
So the meetings, so you were talking about accountability, you're talking about transparency.
Yes,
so the meetings, I would guess, would be recorded.
They'll be recorded. Minutes will be taken, and minutes will be shared with the community after the meetings. We probably will not share the recordings, but we will keep them for accountability. So if there were an ECAS case brought against us for some reason, I can't imagine it would be, but if there were arbitration, there are records of what decisions were made and how they were made. But the entire process won't be shared with the community, because sometimes there's a need for discretion.
Next point, the honorariums. I and the rest of the WPS went back and forth on this. I'm the one who very strongly insisted that we receive 1 token per meeting. Other people felt that to get the best people, we have to pay them well, but I felt that the intrinsic value and the volunteer nature of this, it was more important to stress the honor of the position than to stress the financial recompense of the position. And a single token makes it clear that we appreciate you doing this. It's a thank you, but it is in no way enriching ourselves. $5 for up to 16 hours worth of work, or $10 for up to 16 hours worth of work, doesn't seem like an enrichment. And even if the token were to go to $100 in the next 6 months, you know, is that a lot for the amount of work? I don't think so. No, I think it's pretty clear. The idea is the honorarium, and for people who have experience in different committees or in different volunteering, for example, oftentimes you'll receive honorariums, and they're clearly not compensation. They're always lower compared to what you would have gotten, and it's the symbolic gesture that's really what you're receiving. A token payment. Yeah. Yeah, and in this case, it's that single token payment, right? Yeah. All right. So we talked about minutes. Yep. And then we're here at minutes. So minutes for each meeting will be kept.
And meeting minutes will be shared with the token holders. Full stop. Will the meetings be recorded? They will. The recordings will not be shared unless they're needed by arbitration.
Okay.
There needs to be full accountability, but full accountability doesn't mean I show you everything unless you ever need to know it. Let's see. Recommendations and reports will be submitted in writing to the token holders. They'll include suggested actions, justifications for suggestions. We will also be releasing our budgets, all the money we spend every month. We hope to be able to present a Steemit post that says this is what we spent, this is what we spent it on, this was higher than was expected, this was lower, our current funds are X.
That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Yep.
Yeah. I think we are going to need 1 or 2 assistants, administrative assistants. These people have to be paid. They could be up to 2 assistants full-time. Really depends on the workload, and we won't know until we see. But they do not make any decisions. They are not part of the decision-making process. They are the people that make sure that everybody shows up to the meetings, that everybody has the correct Zoom link, that proposals are received and responses are sent out properly. It's administrative assistant or executive assistant to the committee.
And currently in the proposal, we're going to go through the budget shortly now. Right now you have the room for 2 is what's being budgeted. But I just heard you say that depending on the workload, depending on what happens, that could be dropped down to 1 if that's all that's needed.
Yes, and actually, when we go through the budget, I'll mention this again probably, but the value I put in for the hourly pay is $30 an hour. And I haven't lived in the US for 40 years, so that might be too low. We might have 1 executive assistant working 40 hours a week, but that person might get more than $30 an hour, but then we only have 1. So we'll have to visit that when it happens. There might be no one available at $30 an hour, or there might be a plethora of people.
And just to clarify, this document that we're looking at, David, for those who didn't see, David clicked in the proposal. At the bottom of the proposal, there were 2 links, and this was one.
I'm going to go back. So there's 2 links. The second one is the duties for the administrative assistants. And the first one is the actual charter for the emergency committee. If you want to read 7 pages of legalese, there it is.
And we won't do that in the video today, but I invite everybody, if you thought that there's value in this video and that you've learned something from David and that you want to know more, please click on the links. Please go and inform yourself. I've reviewed them. There's really good information in there. If you want to know, so we very briefly went over administrative assistants, but we didn't go into detail in terms of what they would be doing. David and the team have gone into details. So please go, if this is something that you think is important to know, what would these people be doing? You're talking about paying some people 40 hours a week. That seems excessive, whatever it is. If you have any follow through, they are providing the information. So please feel free to go through. We won't go through it now, but the information is there for you to go through.
And the charter includes code of conduct and all the other things that people will want to know about. So it's there. Let's go on to the budget. I think
let's go on to the budget, because I think that that's important for people. They want to know, all right, so how much money are you asking for here?
Yes. So let's look at what we have here. The honoraria is pure token, and that's 14 tokens a month. That's 1 token per meeting per committee member. Again, I don't think that's excessive. Software, we put in a one-time fee, not a per month fee, although it says per month in this column. It's 1 month only, first month only. We put in software such as Zoom, a professional copy, Lucid Meetings, and VPN for the committee members who are in China.
Mm.
That might be a subscription basis. That might be a one-time fee. I don't know.
And the VPN is to access the Lucid Meetings, to access the Zoom. The VPN is to
access Lucid Meetings, access Zoom, access Gmail. China can't use any Google products right now. I think it's not an unreasonable amount. And remember, at the end of the 6 months, any money that is remaining in the budget goes back to the savings account. It goes to the category the categories that have been established, or is burned. None of this stays in our pockets. Nobody is enriched from this.
And as you said earlier, the financial the finances are going to be posted at the end of every month, and so people will be able to review. Everything is transparent, and so people would see that the operational budget is either being used or not being used ahead of time, and you'd be able to project whether or not there's going to be a surplus.
And that's right. And so 500 was set to cover our costs, but not excessively. Then administrative staff, you see what we came up with. Email and office tools. I put Google Suite for 12 users because every time I've established Google Suites, no matter how many people there are, I always end up needing 12 accounts. I don't know why. It's one of those odd paradoxes of nature. Google always requires 12 accounts for functioning groups. You got 2 people, for some reason you end up needing 12 accounts.
All right. And that's $100 a one-time fee, or is that a per month?
That's a per month. And so that's why it's spread across all 6 months rather than it will be less. It will definitely be less. If you are in a country, if the majority of users are in countries that Google discounts, it's like $2.50 or $3 per account. If you are in a country that Google does not discount, it can be 10 or more per account. So $100 is middle of the road. Website maintenance. This money can be removed from the budget if the WPS portal development and management budget is passed. That's one of the other proposals. If it's not passed, we need a website. $500 a month for building and running and maintaining a website is not a lot of money. It will mean probably my son will build it for free on Squarespace, something like that.
And the idea is really this website is a means to give you a space, because we talk about, people would say, oh, why would you need a website? I think that having a website is just a portal that people can go to, either to submit information that you talked about earlier, and or information, a space
to talk to each other, to communicate with each other pre-proposal. Here's the proposal I'm thinking of. Anybody have any ideas? To submit the proposals and have forms that can be filled out so that the formatting of the proposal is unified. Where we can share information such as checklists of everything a proposal should include, where we can include minutes of the meetings. They would also go on chain somewhere, but it would be good to have a single unified site and a place where we can update sort of news or blog, or if we have a proposal coming up for vote, a place where people can vote and read all the voting thresholds and requirements and news, and where we can link details of the proposal. It might be 50 pages in a proposal.
So the website is really the means of communication. It's a communication tool to be able to communicate outwards and potentially inwards with the committee.
Yes, and for people outside
with each other
to talk to each other. Yeah. So it's sort of what EOSGO would be if EOSGO were the WPS. And then last here is, and wait, before I go to the last one. So if you look at that, 500 a month, anyone here who's done web development can tell you 500 a month for web maintenance is okay, but not for development. We are definitely going to be using volunteers if the WPS proposal, portal proposal doesn't get passed. That's really hard to say. WPS portal proposal.
Yeah.
If that doesn't get passed, we are going to have a second-rate product doing the bare minimum, and we are going to have to volunteer time and money to do that. So if you are considering voting against the development proposal for whatever reason, please also consider volunteering your web development skills.
Straight from David.
Yeah. Then miscellaneous is 20% of all costs each month. Where does that figure come from? I've been doing this for 30 years, 30 plus years, and that's a good number. It's not an excessive number. There will be a conversion fee for converting EOS to cash. That could be 5%. And there can be other costs that we haven't thought of. And there will be other costs that we haven't thought of. I tried to keep this budget very simple, but that means things that may have been, may needed to have been included weren't.
And again, the idea is if there's any surplus at the end of the 6 months,
that's correct.
That those funds are either burned and or returned. That's
right.
So
none of this money goes in anybody's pocket. There's no company established that gets the money and then keeps the money on its books. There is just a working budget, and to make sure that we have enough to do the job, but not too much. This is how we put it together. If there's money left over, we give it back.
And to reiterate, the only people that are making money in that sense would be the external people who would be hired to do some administrative work. And then there's the honorarium, which is not compensation. So really the only person that's, sorry, what I mean is really everybody in here is a volunteer other than the workers that are hired specifically for administrative work. Otherwise, it's pretty much volunteering. So it remains volunteering as what is currently being done, with now a small budget to be able to allocate for office tools and for administrative coordinating help.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much for spending time with me to go through your proposal. Very detailed. I think we're running on the hour mark here. Very detailed. And so if people have more questions, more information, please write down informed questions. I'm gonna ask you to write down to me. You can send on our EOS Nation channel. I'm gonna be posting this around. You can also come in the WPS channel on Telegram, ask some questions, some informed questions in order to strengthen the proposal. Again, David, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
No problem. You have a good night, and I will talk to you when you get the questions.
All right.